All right, let's just cut right to it. Today, we're making a promise. A plain English, totally conversational breakdown of the three absolute foundational building blocks of investing. No lectures, no gatekeeping, just a straightforward look at the building blocks of building wealth. Let's dive in.
So imagine I just handed you $1,000 right now, today, and said, go invest this. Honestly, would you actually know exactly what to do with it? If you're drawing a blank, you are definitely not alone. Let's be honest, most people don't. And that's not because investing is some impossible math problem. It's really just because nobody ever sat us down over a cup of coffee and explained it like, normal humans talking.
Instead, the financial industry absolutely loves to throw this incredibly intimidating jargon at us. I mean, you hear words like equities, fixed income, or diversified portfolio, and what do? We just nod along, right? Silently praying nobody actually quizzes us on what any of that means. And the result? People just get totally confused and paralyzed.
So let's completely redefine what we're even doing in this explainer. Investing is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Actually, scratch that. It's just simply about giving your money a job. And hey, just like hiring for any job, it really helps to know what the daily responsibilities are going to be before you put anyone on the payroll.
But why does this matter so much right now? Well, enter the silent wealth killer. Inflation. If your money is just chilling in a regular savings account, it's literally losing its purchasing power every single year. Think about your daily cup of coffee. 5 years ago, maybe that cost you $3. Today, that exact same cup is $5 minimum. If you aren't putting your cash to work, it's just not growing fast enough to keep up with the real world.
Section 1. Stocks, the coffee shop.
Okay, so the core concept of a stock is beautifully simple. Stocks equal ownership. When you buy a stock, you are literally buying a tiny, microscopic piece of a company. Think about it like this. Say your best friend opens a local coffee shop and tells you, hey, I need 10 grand to get this off the ground. Put in $100 and you'll own 1% of the whole shop. Now, if the shop crushes it, opening new locations, lines out the door, your 1% suddenly becomes way more valuable. But on the flip side, if the shop struggles, your piece of the pie loses value too.
That little coffee shop analogy? That is exactly what is happening when you buy shares in massive global brands like Apple, Nike, or Tesla. You aren't just tossing money into the void, you're becoming a literal partial owner of that business. And as an owner, you absolutely get to ride the wave when the company grows and succeeds. But yeah, you also share in the risk if things take a turn.
Now, being an owner does come with some pretty sweet potential perks. Enter the dividend. So, what's the dividend? It's basically a small slice of a company's profits that they decide to pay out directly to you, their shareholder. You can think of it like a literal thank you check arriving in the mail, just a little reward for believing in them and owning a piece of their business.
But here's the real talk part of owning stocks. They're exciting, sure, because the growth potential is huge, but they do come with a major catch: volatility. Volatility just means prices can swing wildly. Like, your investment might be up 5% on a random Tuesday and then completely tank 8% by Thursday. It's an emotional roller coaster, for sure. But that bumpiness? That's the necessary trade-off you have to accept if you want that higher potential reward.
Section 2. Bonds, being the bank.
All right, so if stocks equal ownership, bonds equal lending, it's a totally different mindset. Instead of owning a piece of a company, you are actually loaning your money out. Picture this. Your cousin asked to borrow $500. They say, listen, I'll pay you back in exactly 2 years, plus I'll toss in an extra $50 just for letting me use the cash. Well, that extra $50, that is exactly how a bond works. You're loaning your money to a massive corporation or even the US government, and in return, they sign on the dotted line agreeing to pay back your original amount plus interest on a set schedule.
And this comparison really brilliantly highlights the difference between the two building blocks. On one hand, you have the absolute anxiety of the stock market's wild price swings. And on the other, you have the totally calm, predictable nature of bonds. With a bond, you're not sweating over a company's daily stock price jumping all over the place. Instead, you're just sitting back and collecting a steady, predictable paycheck of interest until your loan is fully repaid. Because of that certainty, bonds, especially government bonds, are generally seen as a much lower risk.
Of course, because the risk is lower, you're going to get lower but steadier rewards. I like to think of bonds as the ultra-dependable, steady friend in your financial life. Are they going to make you wildly rich overnight? No way. But they provide the absolute essential stability you need in your portfolio so you can actually, sleep peacefully at night when the market gets crazy.
Section 3. ETFs, the sampler platter.
Okay, but let's say you want the high growth of stocks, but you are frankly terrified to just pick one or two single companies and cross your fingers they don't crash. Enter the ETF, or Exchange Traded Fund. This totally solves that problem. It is essentially a single basket that holds hundreds of different companies at once. Honestly, it's exactly like ordering the sampler platter at an amazing restaurant. Instead of committing to just one dish and hoping it's good, you get a little taste of the whole menu. For example, if you buy into an S&P 500 ETF, with literally one single click, you are instantly buying a tiny fraction of the 500 biggest companies in America all at once. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, the whole shebang.
Now, the reason ETFs are considered a real game changer comes down to one big word: diversification. This is the absolute golden rule of investing. Simply put, do not put all your eggs in one basket. Because an ETF spreads your money across hundreds of different companies, if one specific business happens to have a totally disastrous year, it is not going to sink your entire investment. The ETF handles all of this diversification for you automatically behind the scenes, and usually for incredibly low fees. It massively lowers your overall risk compared to trying to pick individual winning stocks yourself.
Section 4. Putting it all together.
All right, so let's check the vibes on these three. If you want to literally own a piece of specific companies you deeply believe in and you have the stomach for volatility to chase higher growth, stocks are absolutely your move. Now, if you want predictable, steady income without the wild gamble, bonds bring that totally stable vibe. And if you just want exposure to the overall market without the stress of picking individual winners and losers, ETFs are your diversified basket, keeping the vibe incredibly simple. The truth is, most people actually end up building a mix of all three. It just depends on your personal goals, your timeline, and your own risk tolerance. There's literally no single right answer here.
But listen, I really want to leave you with the absolute most important takeaway from this whole explainer. The biggest mistake you can make is not accidentally picking the slightly wrong investment mix. No, the biggest mistake is letting all this financial jargon intimidate you so much that you just never start at all. Finding the mathematically perfect mix is so much less important than simply taking action and giving your money a job today.
So as we close this out, I've got a quick question for you to reflect on. Based on your own personal timeline and, frankly, how well you want to sleep when the market inevitably dips, are you team stocks, team bonds, or team ETFs? Think about it. And hey, if seeing these basic concepts finally broken down without the fluff made things click for you, make sure to follow along for more. I break down finance topics just like this all the time. No gatekeeping, no confusing jargon, just real explanations that actually make sense to normal people. I'll see you in the next one.